Hidden among old, dirty, and forgotten coins could be a life-changing treasure. Some rare quarter dollars, worn by time and covered in grime, have shocked collectors by selling for thousands or even millions of dollars. Hold incredible stories and astonishing value. The most exciting part? Many were discovered in everyday collections, jars, and drawers. Before you ignore that old quarter, take a closer look. It could be a hidden fortune waiting to be uncovered. What if the old, dirty 1983 quarter dollar sitting in your change jar right now could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more than a brand new luxury car? It sounds impossible, but some 1983 Washington quarters have shocked collectors with astonishing values. Most people spend them without a second glance, yet a few rare examples have turned ordinary pocket change into big money and hidden treasure. And today, you're about to learn exactly what makes this coin so special, and why you should check every 1983 quarter you can find before it's too late. The story of the 1983 quarter begins during a strange and often overlooked period in American coin collecting. In the early 1980s, the United States Mint made a decision that would have an unexpected impact on collectors decades later. For 1983, the Mint did not produce official uncirculated mint sets for collectors. At the time, few people realized how important that would become. Most newly struck 1983 quarters entered circulation immediately. They were spent, dropped into cash registers, thrown into jars, passed through vending machines, worn down by years of everyday use. And because relatively few pristine examples were saved, finding a truly high-grade 1983 quarter today is much harder than many collectors realize. That's where the mystery begins. Millions were minted, yet finding an exceptional one can be surprisingly difficult. And sometimes difficulty creates value. Now let's start by identifying the coin correctly. Look at the front of the quarter. You should see the date 1983 beneath George Washington's portrait. Just to the right of the ribbon, you'll find a small P mint mark that indicates the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. This is important because Philadelphia quarters from this era can contain some of the most sought-after varieties and high-grade examples. Next, check the edge. A normal 1983 quarter is made from a copper-nickel clad composition. You should see a copper-colored stripe running around the edge. If the edge appears unusual, entirely silver-colored, or significantly different from other quarters, further investigation may be necessary. Sometimes the smallest clue leads to the biggest discovery. And now here's where things become exciting. One of the reasons collectors obsess over the 1983 quarter is because of condition rarity. This is something many casual collectors don't understand. A coin doesn't always need a dramatic error to be valuable. Sometimes rarity comes from survival. Because so few pristine 1983 quarters were preserved, top-grade certified examples have achieved astonishing prices. One of the finest known examples sold for thousands of dollars at auction, stunning collectors who once viewed the coin as common pocket change. Think about that. A quarter worth 25 cents in circulation became worth thousands simply because it survived in exceptional condition. That's life-changing value hiding in plain sight. But don't stop there, because errors can make these coins even more valuable. One of the most popular categories is the off-center strike. During minting, if a blank planchet isn't positioned correctly beneath the dies, part of the design can be struck outside the intended area. The result is a dramatic-looking coin that immediately catches attention. Depending on how far off-center the strike is and whether the date remains visible, values can range from a few $100s to several $1,000s. Collectors love these errors because every example is unique. No two are exactly alike. And now for another shocking possibility. Some 1983 quarters have been found with doubled die characteristics. A doubled die occurs during the die creation process, causing parts of the design to appear duplicated. Collectors search carefully around the date, lettering, and design details for signs of doubling. Strong examples can attract serious collector interest. Depending on rarity and condition, values may range from hundreds to thousands of dollars. The scary part? Most people never notice them. A valuable variety can pass through dozens of hands without being recognized. What if I told you that an old, dirty 1979 quarter dollar hiding in a junk drawer, coin jar, or forgotten collection could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars? Most people glance at these coins and see nothing more than 25 cents. But collectors know a shocking secret. Some 1979 Washington quarters have become hidden treasures, and the rarest examples have turned ordinary pocket change into serious big money. Before you spend another quarter, stay with me, because what you're about to learn could completely change the way you look at every coin you find. The story begins in 1979 at the Denver Mint. Millions upon millions of quarters were being produced for circulation across America. The economy was changing, inflation was rising, and coin production was running at full speed. To most people, the 1979 D quarter seemed completely ordinary. It wasn't made of silver. It wasn't considered rare. And because so many were minted, few collectors paid much attention to them at the time. But history has a strange habit of hiding treasures in plain sight. Over the years, sharp-eyed collectors began discovering unusual errors, extraordinary high-grade examples, and rare varieties that transformed some of these overlooked quarters into highly desirable collectibles. And that's where our mystery begins. If you have a 1979 D quarter, the first thing you need to do is identify it correctly. Look at the front of the coin. Beneath the date 1979, you should see a small D mint mark. That indicates the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Now examine the edge carefully. A normal 1979 D quarter is a clad coin. Along the edge, you should see a copper-colored stripe sandwiched between the outer nickel layers. If the edge appears unusual, completely silver-colored, or significantly different from other quarters, it deserves a closer look. Because sometimes the most valuable discoveries begin with the smallest details. Now here's where things start getting exciting. One of the most valuable categories involving 1979 D quarters is the world of mint errors. And the first major error collectors search for is the off-center strike. During the minting process, a blank coin must be perfectly positioned beneath the dies. When that doesn't happen, part of the design is struck outside the coin's intended area. The result can be dramatic. A quarter with a visible date and a significant off-center strike can sell for hundreds of dollars. In some cases, especially with dramatic examples in excellent condition, values can climb into the thousands. Think about that. A simple minting mistake can create big money from an ordinary quarter. But that's only the beginning. Because another category of errors has shocked collectors for decades. Double dies. A doubled die occurs during die creation, causing parts of the design to appear doubled. Collectors carefully inspect the date, lettering, and Washington's profile, looking for unusual duplication. Strong examples can command impressive premiums. Depending on visibility and condition, some double die quarters can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And here's the scary part. Many people spend these coins without ever realizing what they're holding. Now let me tell you something that surprises almost everyone. Some of the most valuable 1979 D quarters aren't error coins at all. They're simply coins preserved in extraordinary condition. Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet that's exactly what happened. Because millions of 1979 D quarters entered circulation immediately, finding one with flawless surfaces, blazing mint luster, and virtually no contact marks is incredibly difficult today. Collectors compete aggressively for the finest known examples. In fact, high-grade certified 1979 D quarters have sold for thousands of dollars at major auctions, proving that condition alone can create life-changing value. Imagine finding one in an old coin album inherited from a relative. What appears ordinary to one person may look extraordinary to a professional collector. And that difference can mean serious money. But we're not done yet. Let's talk about another fascinating error. Clipped planchets. Before coins are struck, round blanks are punched from large sheets of metal. Occasionally, the punching process overlaps, creating blanks with curved sections missing. When struck, these coins display a distinctive crescent-shaped clip. Depending on the size and appearance of the clip, values often range from $100 to several $100s, with exceptional examples bringing much more. What if the old, dirty 1967 quarter dollar hiding in your pocket right now is worth not just a few dollars, not even a few hundred, but potentially thousands of dollars to the right collector? It sounds unbelievable, but some 1967 quarters have stunned experts, shocked auction bidders, and turned ordinary pocket change into big money. And today, you're about to discover exactly what makes these coins so valuable and why you should never ignore a worn-out quarter again. The story begins in one of the most unusual periods in American coin history. It was 1967. The United States was still dealing with the fallout from a massive coin shortage. Silver prices had surged. Collectors were pulling coins from circulation. The U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure to produce enough coins for everyday commerce. To combat hoarding, the Mint made a controversial decision. Just like in 1965 and 1966, mint marks were removed from circulating coins entirely. That means every genuine 1967 Washington quarter should have no mint mark, no D, no S, nothing. And that simple detail is where our mystery begins. Because whenever the mint rushes production, mistakes can happen. And mistakes are exactly what collectors dream about. Most people see an old, dirty 1967 quarter and assume it's worth 25 cents. Collectors know better. Some 1967 quarters have become hidden treasures worth hundreds, thousands, and in rare cases, even more. Before we reveal the most valuable examples, let's talk about how to identify a genuine 1967 quarter. First, check the date beneath George Washington's portrait. It should clearly read 1967. Next, look carefully for a mint mark. You shouldn't find one. If you think you see a mint mark, take a closer look because genuine circulation strike 1967 quarters were intentionally produced without them. Now examine the edge of the coin. A normal 1967 quarter is a copper-nickel-clad coin. Along the edge, you should see a thin copper-colored stripe sandwiched between the outer layers. But if you find a 1967 quarter with a solid silver-colored edge and no visible copper stripe, stop everything. That could be the clue that changes everything. Here's why. One of the most famous errors associated with this era involves quarters struck on silver planchets. Although silver quarters officially ended in 1964, leftover silver blanks occasionally found their way into production. A genuine 1967 quarter struck on a silver planchet can be worth thousands of dollars. Collectors aggressively pursue these transitional errors because they combine history, rarity, and mystery in one remarkable coin. Imagine discovering one among ordinary change. That's the kind of hidden treasure that keeps coin hunters searching year after year. But that's only the beginning. Now let's talk about one of the most dramatic error categories: off-center strikes. During the minting process, a blank planchet must be perfectly aligned beneath the dies. When alignment fails, the design can be struck off-center. The result is a coin that immediately looks unusual. Depending on how far off-center the strike is and whether the date remains visible, values can range from a few $100s to well over $1,000. Some dramatic examples have become highly sought-after collectibles because every off-center strike is unique. Think about that. A manufacturing mistake transforms ordinary pocket change into big money, and most people wouldn't recognize it if they saw it. Now here's something even more surprising. A number of collectors have made valuable discoveries from coins that appeared ugly, dark, and heavily worn. Many people assume dirt equals damage. Not always. An old and dirty quarter may hide important details beneath decades of circulation. Some valuable errors remain unnoticed simply because nobody takes the time to inspect them carefully. The coin everyone ignores might be the coin worth examining. And now we come to one of the most fascinating varieties collectors search for: double dies. A double die occurs during the die manufacturing process when design elements become duplicated. The result can create visible doubling in the date, lettering, or design details. Strong double die examples are among the most exciting discoveries in modern coin collecting. Depending on visibility and condition, values can range from hundreds to several $1,000s. What if I told you that an old, dirty 1966 quarter dollar sitting in a coin jar right now could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars? Most people spend these coins without a second thought, but hidden among ordinary pocket change are rare 1966 quarters that collectors desperately want. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for before another valuable coin slips through your fingers. The story of the 1966 quarter begins during one of the most chaotic periods in American coin history. The United States was facing a coin shortage. Silver prices were rising. People were hoarding coins. The U.S. Mint was working around the clock, trying to keep enough money in circulation. In the middle of this crisis, millions of quarters were struck under intense pressure. But whenever production speeds increase and mistakes happen, opportunity follows. And that's exactly why some 1966 quarters have become legendary among collectors. Here's something that shocks many people. Unlike most modern coins, the 1966 quarter doesn't have a mint mark. No D, no S, no mint mark at all. Between 1965 and 1967, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks from circulating coins to discourage collecting and hoarding. That means every genuine 1966 quarter should have no mint mark. If you ever encounter a 1966 quarter with what appears to be a mint mark, stop immediately and investigate further. While many are simply damage or alterations, unusual examples can attract serious collector attention. Now let's talk about the first clue that could lead to big money. Take a close look at the edge of your 1966 quarter. A normal coin will show a copper-colored stripe around the rim because it was made from copper and nickel layers bonded together. But if your 1966 quarter appears completely silver around the edge with no copper stripe visible, your pulse should start rising. Why? Because some rare 1966 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets intended for earlier silver coins. These transitional errors are among the most exciting discoveries in modern coin collecting. A genuine silver planchet 1966 quarter can be worth thousands of dollars, depending on condition and certification. Imagine finding one in an old coffee can or inherited collection. That's the kind of hidden treasure collectors dream about. But things get even more interesting. One of the most valuable categories involves double dies. A double die occurs when the coin die receives a misaligned impression during manufacturing, creating visible doubling in parts of the design. On some 1966 quarters, collectors examine the date, lettering, and Washington's portrait for signs of doubling. Strong examples can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on rarity and condition. And here's the scary part. Many people miss these valuable varieties because the doubling can be subtle. A coin worth significant money could easily be mistaken for ordinary pocket change. Now here's a shocking auction fact. Certain high-grade 1966 quarters have sold for thousands of dollars simply because they survived in exceptional condition. Think about that for a moment. Not because of an error, not because of silver, not because of a rare variety, just because they were preserved so well. Collectors compete fiercely for top population examples certified in elite mint state grades. A quarter worth 25 cents in circulation can become a prize worth thousands when preserved at the highest levels. That's why condition matters so much. And now we're about to enter territory where values can become truly surprising. Let's talk about off-center strikes. During minting, if a blank planchet isn't positioned correctly, the design can be struck off-center. The result is a dramatic-looking coin with part of the design missing. Collectors love these errors. If the date remains visible and the off-center strike is significant, values often range from several $100s to well over $1,000. The more dramatic and attractive the error, the more collectors tend to pay. Now imagine dumping out a jar of old coins and finding one that looks strangely crooked. Most people would assume it's damaged. Experienced collectors know better. That strange-looking coin could represent serious big money. But we're not finished yet. Another fascinating error involves clipped planchets. Before coins are struck, round blanks are punched from large metal sheets. Sometimes the cutting process overlaps, creating blanks with curved sections missing. Have you ever picked up an old, dirty 1965 quarter dollar and thought it was worth only 25 cents? What if I told you that one ordinary-looking coin could be hiding big money? And in some rare cases, collectors have paid thousands of dollars for examples that most people would overlook. Before you spend another quarter, stay with me, because the 1965 Washington quarter has one of the most fascinating stories in American coin history. And some of the rarest examples could represent a hidden treasure sitting in a drawer, coin jar, or old collection right now. The year was 1965, and America was facing a coin crisis. Silver prices were rising, people were hoarding coins, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to keep enough change circulating across the country. That's when everything changed. For decades, Washington quarters had been struck with 90% silver. But in 1965, the government made a dramatic decision. Silver was removed from circulating quarters and replaced with a copper-nickel clad composition. Most people accepted the change without realizing that this transition year would create some of the most intriguing and valuable quarter varieties ever discovered. And here's where the story gets exciting. While millions of normal 1965 quarters were produced, a few extraordinary mistakes slipped through the cracks. These errors transformed ordinary pocket change into coins worth hundreds, thousands, and in some cases, life-changing value. But before we reveal the biggest treasures, you need to know how to identify a genuine 1965 quarter. Start by looking at the date. It should clearly read 1965 beneath George Washington's portrait. Unlike earlier quarters, you won't find a mint mark because mint marks were temporarily removed from coins between 1965 and 1967 to discourage collectors from hoarding them. Now check the edge. This is one of the most important clues. A normal 1965 quarter will show a copper-colored stripe running around the edge. That stripe comes from the copper core sandwiched between the outer nickel layers. But if you find a 1965 quarter with a completely silver-colored edge and no visible copper stripe, your heart should start racing. Why? Because you may have found one of the most famous transitional errors in American numismatics. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets intended for 1964 quarters. These coins look different, weigh differently, and have become legendary among collectors. One authenticated example sold for thousands of dollars at auction, proving that a simple date and edge inspection could uncover serious big money. Imagine finding one mixed in with ordinary change. Now, before you rush to check every quarter in your house, there's another shocking detail. Many collectors automatically assume that old and dirty coins are worthless. In reality, dirt and toning can sometimes hide valuable characteristics. A dark, worn 1965 quarter could still be a rare error coin. In fact, some discoveries happened only after careful examination revealed unusual weight, strike quality, or composition. That means the ugly quarter everyone ignores could actually be a hidden treasure. And the surprises don't stop there. One of the most desirable varieties involves double dies. A double die occurs when the design is impressed more than once during die creation, causing visible doubling on letters, numbers, or design elements. On certain 1965 quarters, collectors search for doubling in the date, the motto "I in God we trust," and the inscriptions around the coin. Minor double dies may bring hundreds of dollars depending on condition, while stronger examples can command significantly more when certified by major grading services. But wait until you hear about this next error. Some 1965 quarters have been found with dramatic off-center strikes. During the minting process, the blank planchet was not positioned correctly, causing part of the design to be missing. The more dramatic the error while still showing the date, the more valuable the coin often becomes. Small off-center examples might sell for $100 to $300. More dramatic examples can reach $500, $1,000, or even higher depending on rarity and eye appeal. Now imagine pulling a quarter from an old coffee can and realizing it's worth more than a month's paycheck.